Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Get this all figured out. Okay, hello everybody. So hopefully everybody's doing A-okay. I just want to welcome everybody back to my YouTube channel talking about dreams today. So excited. So my dogs are being typical jerks and playing right when I need to be working. Can you stop? Let's stop, shall we? Yeah. That's not going to happen. Anyway, I want to wish everybody a wonderful Thursday or Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. We had tacos, so it's Taco Tuesday. But I am here talking to everybody about dreams and all about dream states and all kinds of good stuff. So you'll notice that there's a chat bar. By all means, go ahead and ask any questions when it comes to the chat. But I'm going to start off by kind of talking about kind of dreams in general. And then we'll go in and we'll dive in just a little bit more. So first and foremost, it's really important that a lot of times when I'm reading people, dreams matter. And I think a lot of people think that when they have a dream, they just kind of push it off to the side and they're like, well, it doesn't mean nothing. And I'm telling you, it does. Because it's very subconscious. There's a lot of stuff going on in your subconscious that your logical mind has a hard time wrapping it around. So we have two sides of the brain. So our left side is the logical side. That's the side that we use when we're paying for our bills, when we're doing our jobs during the day. So left side logical is also known as the ego side of the brain, okay? It keeps us safe. That we need to have an ego, okay? So it's just that if we don't want to feed into the ego, or you hear people saying that they're very egotistical. So, but that's the left side of the brain. Now the right side of the brain, that's the magic side. That's the creative side. That's the musical side. So in order for us to merge both of these brains together, that's not easy. That's why meditation is so important. But also it matters when it comes to dream states and the unconscious side of the brain. So the unconscious is really fast, really quick. And a lot of time our brain has a hard time wrapping its mind around what it's just getting downloaded with or interpreted with. So that's why I want to talk about dreams, because they really do matter, usually directly when it comes to your real life, okay? So first and foremost, there are 3 different types of dreams that we're going to have, okay? The first one I call the reality type dreams. Those are the dreams when you're walking around naked and snakes are chasing you and your teeth are falling out, right? That's the reality type of dream. Now, when it comes to those type of dreams, these are the ones that I'm talking about. These are the ones that you want to look up because they matter with what's going on in your real life. So, for instance, teeth dreams are all about anxiety. It's all about worry and fear in your waking life. Okay, so we'll go over some more examples here in a minute. So teeth dreams, always about stress, somebody who's overly stressed or overly anxiety ridden about something in their waking life. So, but those are the reality type dreams. Those are the ones that I want you to look up. Now, there's lots of books out there. There's lots of information out there online. Personally, on my phone, I have something called Dream Moods, MOODS, dreammoods.com. It's free and they have an app for it. So I love being able to wake up and just look up what I just dreamt about, because it matters, because it's based in my reality. Okay, so those are the reality type dreams. So dreammoods.com, got to look those up. Now, a lot of people will tell me, well, I can't remember my dreams when I wake up. Then you need to verbally say them out loud as quick as you can, or write them down. Now, I am not writing stuff down at 3 a.m. It ain't happening. I like my sleep. So a lot of times I'll say it out loud. I'll say water, ladder, spiders, and then I'll roll back over and go to bed. Because remember, we want to get it out of the subconscious and get it into the conscious. So by verbally saying it out loud or writing it down, that's how we remember, okay? And it's never when you're really awake. It's just right when you're kind of just barely waking up. That's when you want to say it out loud, because that's really when you're going to remember. You only have about 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds before your brain goes into that beta or that alpha state and you're out. So like I said, those are what I like to call the reality type dreams. Now, the other ones are called, there's 2 others. The other one is called the Visitation Dream. So that's when you get into REM sleep, that rapid eye movement, and your soul quite literally leaves the body. You astral travel, more common than what you'd like to think, okay? So when your soul leaves the body, then that gives you an opportunity to go visit your loved ones in heaven. So those are called, like I said, those are called not reality type dreams. Oh my gosh. The visitation dreams. Oh my gosh, losing my mind. So the visitation dreams do not happen very often. And when they do happen, you will remember them for the rest of your life. It's very profound. That's usually when somebody's like, my dad has been gone for a year and he finally showed up in my dream. I'm like, perfect. Because you'll never ever forget that. You won't. That's called a visitation dream. But you got to remember, your loved one has to come down a level. I'll say it that way. They have to come down a level and you have to be able to go up. Now, when your soul leaves the body, it's always connected with like an etherical cord or a cord. So sorry, my microphone is getting all fuzzy again. So it's just gonna be fuzzy. So, but it's attached with like a golden thread or a cord, and that attaches your soul to your body. So a lot of times in people will say that they see this golden thread or this cord, and that's just, like I said, that's just connecting your soul to the body. So there's a big debate on, and I've read this a few times, there's a big debate on, is it true if you cut that cord, will your body die and will you go to heaven? So that's the big debate. So I ain't gonna try it. So, but anyway, that's the visitation dream. Then the third type of dream that we can have is called the precognitive dream, or that's when you can foresee the future in your dream, or you can dream about what's going on before it actually happens. So that's where deja vu comes from. So a lot of times when we start to go through a spiritual awakening, you'll start to have a lot of deja vu. And as you get more on that scale, you'll even have deja vu for like a half a day into a day. And personally, I don't like that. It drives me nuts. I'm a weirdo, so I dream quite vividly. And I ask for my precognition, those type of dreams, to kind of get shut down a little bit, because it's not always positive for me. When I officially shut it down, when the tsunami hit Japan, for 3 days, I kept seeing what looked like Asians dead floating in the water. And I didn't understand why I was seeing that. I would wake up sweaty, not being able to breathe, very upset. And finally, when the flood did hit, I understood what was going on, because the more you're connected to everything. And that, I didn't like that. So I asked for that, the ability of mine to be shut down, only to be opened if it's something that I know that may affect me or my family. So I asked for that one to be shut down, like I said, simply put, because it's very eerie, and I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know where it was going to happen, but I knew something like that was going to happen. And if I can't fair warn somebody, and if I can't help somebody with that, and I'm the one waking up in a panic and all that other stuff, I'd rather not have it. So personally, I've asked for that to be kind of put aside, because I didn't like it. So, but like I said, that's the precognitive type dream, where we can foresee the future in your dreams. Now, many times people will call me up in a panic saying, you know, I keep seeing this in my dream. And I'm like, well, you're not a precognitive dreamer, meaning that you can't foresee your own future in the dream. So that means to tell me it's a reality type dream, and we need to look that up. And 9 times out of 10, when we do look it up, it does pertain to their reality, and then they're able to adjust or let go of something. So like I said, that's why we have those, is because they're very self-reflective. And it's kind of, in a weird way, our higher self or spirit's way of kind of getting us to let go of something that we don't need to be holding on to, or to adjust the way of thinking to something different or new. So hopefully that one helps. Now, like I said, those are the 3 types of dreams. There's also different, like, I guess maybe sleeping levels, if that's what you want to call it. So the first level is that, like, that waking state. This is when we're at work. So we're in beta state. So we're working, we're doing our job, doing what we have to do. And then you'll notice a lot of times that when you kind of drift off a little bit and kind of la land, and then you snap back again, that's more that alpha state. So, and then, you know, then we go a little bit lower, which would be considered theta in a way. But that theta state, now that's when you're driving and you're driving yourself home, and then you pull into the driveway and you know, trip a little bit, because you're like, wait a second, I don't know how the hell I just got home. And then you're like, then that's when panic hits you, because you're like, holy crap, I don't remember the drive home. How did I get home and not hit anybody? I'm like, well, you were in a theta state. So when you do a routine over and over the same time, a lot of times it puts us into a theta state or even an alpha state. So what I tell people is pay attention when you're doing the mundane chores, because it's a different brain wave or different wavelength. And in theta and alpha, that's my job. So my brain can go into theta state very quickly and very easily. That's what the mediumship can do. So when I go into that state, that's a deep meditative state, but I'm just a weirdo that has learned how to do it while my eyes are open in a waking state. Although sometimes if I really need to connect hard, you'll notice me, I'll cover my eyes or I'll do this because that helps me to kind of get back into that theta state to be able to retrieve information and pull that out. So that's what that's all about. So that, like I said, that alpha is more of that kind of, you always hear the power of now. That's the alpha state. The next state lower, like I said, that's the theta state. And the theta is usually where I'm at with my job as a psychic medium. And then we can go a little bit lower with the light sleep, the deep sleep, and the REM sleep. And I believe that's all delta. So, but REM sleep, REM sleep, that's the magic stuff. So that you have to be able to be in REM sleep in order to be able to have a visitation dream. So a lot of times people will come to me and say, well, you know, my dad died and he hasn't come to me yet in a dream state. I'm like, it's not his fault, it's yours. You're not getting into the dream state. You're not getting into REM sleep to be able to leave the body and go to heaven and visit. And because he's waiting for you, you're not going to him. So 9 times out of 10, it's usually the person that I'm talking to, it's their fault because they're not getting into REM sleep. You'll notice when you start to go through a spiritual awakening, you're not going to sleep at all. You're going to get 4 to 5 hours of sleep, and that's going to be good. And even that, you're going to have some light, weird dreams, but then you're off. So just understand that's pretty normal for a lot of people starting to go through an awakening right now. So enlightened people need 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Unenlightened people need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. So please don't feel like you need that if that's the case. Okay, and I will, because somebody's asking about sleepwalking. I'm going to talk about that. So I was talking about that theta state. So that's what kids do, especially when they're sleepwalking. Highly intuitive children have the tendency to sleepwalk. Highly intuitive children have the tendency to sleepwalk because, again, we're always kind of oddly in that theta state. So very, very common with kiddos. I always tell parents, make sure your doors are locked, make sure that they're taken care of, because they will wander outside sometimes, but almost always you're going to find them passed out on the floor, in a bathtub, something weird like that. You can try to wake them up. There's no real evidence that says that you can't wake them up, but usually you just kind of like guide them back in the bed and away they go. So, so usually that's the case. And I do want to talk about the fact that some people are able to control themselves in their dreams. That's called lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming is the ability to tell yourself to go left and you can actually go left. So it's like you can control yourself in your dreams. Now that's not as easy as what I thought it was. I thought this was more common, but it's not really that common. So I can do that quite easily. I didn't know that was so uncommon. Of course, I don't talk about myself or my abilities to people very often, but I'm realizing that the more intuitive you become, the more that you'll be able to lucid dream. So children are really good about lucid dreaming. They can control themselves in dreams all the time. So as adults, we have more stress, we have more burden, we have more things to worry about, so to speak. So usually we don't do that too often. You know what? I'm glad somebody mentioned that, something about moon. You'll notice in a new moon, you're going to sleep really, really good. And a full moon, you won't sleep that good. So usually we get really good rest on new moons. We usually have very vivid dreams on new moons, sometimes full moons too. But you'll really notice it when we have like a bit of a solar flare or when we have like a Schumann resonance spike. So if you haven't been watching the Schumann resonance, that's basically like the Earth's heartbeat or it's the Earth's pulse. Lately, it's been off the freaking charts. Normally, it's like 7 hertz. Here lately, it's been going up to 110. So that's why a lot of us have been vividly dreaming, very big on the body aches and the headaches. foggy brain, like can't think. But basically put, we're all getting kind of upgraded. So it just give the body what it needs. If you need to sleep, sleep, take a nap. Don't force the body at this point to do things that it just doesn't want to do. So I did sleepwalk quite a bit, but I know a lot of kids that are pretty intuitive do. Somebody was asking, I can't ever remember my dreams. I'm going to tell you an easy trick. Ask. And I know it sounds so dumb, but ask God to remember your dreams before you go to bed. Higher source, energy, whatever you want to call it. So I usually am just like, okay, God, I have a problem. Show me a solution. And I'm going to tell you what, 9 times out of 10, when I get woke up at 3, 3:30, 3:33, 3:11, 2:22 or 4:44 or 4:11, I'm almost always going to have an answer. And I realized that's how Einstein did it. So Einstein would get stuck on a problem. He would think about the problem, ask for a solution before he went to bed. He woke up at 3 in the morning, had the solution, and off he went. So I would tell you, if you have any problems that you want to find a solution to, ask before you go to bed. You will get an answer. And if you don't in your dream state, you will in your waking state. Somehow, some way, usually within 48 hours, you're going to get an answer, almost always. So that's the other one. Somebody was asking about sleep paralysis. Okay, let me talk to you about some sleep paralysis. So many of you will notice that before you're ready to go to bed, right when you're ready to really fall asleep, you have a feeling of falling or tripping. Or feeling like you get kind of jolted awake, right when you're getting ready to go to sleep. And what's happening is that your soul is trying to leave the body before your body is actually asleep. So it's a recovery. It's a way to do that. It's the way for the soul to recover or get some healing work done. So what's happening is that your subconscious is like, I'm out of here. Your conscious is like, no, you're not. And so it tries to interpret what you're feeling the best way that it can. So that's why a lot of times you'll be like, oh, I was falling, and you get that feeling of falling, and it's kind of eerie. So that's the soul wanting to leave the body. Now, the opposite is true when the soul wants to get back into the body. So if your body starts to wake up and your soul isn't in it, boy, we've got a problem. Because what happens is your soul is like, oh crap, I'm not in the body. And your body's like, oh crap, my soul isn't in here. So then what happens is the body, logic, then goes into fight or flight mode. So you're going to notice that you can't move. You're like, oh, you can't move, but yet you're fairly conscious, and it's freaky because you're looking that if you open up your eyes, you'll see what looks like a black figure over you, and you'll feel sometimes even pressure on your chest. And what that is that's actually your soul trying to get back into the body. Now, when that happens, it's a lot like a rubber band kind of snapping a little bit. So when that happens, it happens really quick, and you'll wake up and you'll notice that you'll wake up and you're kind of shaky and you can't really get your brains together yet, but you're real shaky, out of sorts, and your legs are kind of wobbly. So again, that's that adrenaline release or endorphin release. And so your body then is kind of coming down off that adrenaline rush, and your soul is like, phew, I made it. So I'll tell you, when that does happen, a lot of times for about 2 weeks afterwards, you won't dream about anything. I think that spirit doesn't like to see that because your job is to be here in reality. We can go home when we cross over. So I think that they kind of put us in timeout a little bit when that happens. And then you don't dream for but 2-3 weeks. And then you'll slowly get to dream again. So, but sleep paralysis is exactly that. It's because your soul and your body are completely separate, still attached with that gold cord, like I was saying, still attached, but not together. So I hated this. There was a big problem for me, especially when I started doing full-time reading 7 years ago. So I finally said, okay, guys, before I go to bed, show me a clock or a watch. Remember, I'm a lucid dreamer. I said, show me a clock or a watch. And I know then that's my cue to hurry up and get back into my body. And so I'll tell you what, ever since then, somebody was like, it's time. I'm like, I'm out. Like, I'm out. So if they show me a clock or a watch, that's my signal logically that I need to get back into my body before my body wakes up. And 9 times out of 10, when it does happen, I'll get jolted awake. Like a cat jumps on me, a dog barks out of nowhere, or things like that. So it is scary, but just understand that's usually you. Rarely is it a bad thing. So if it's a bad thing, then we're talking incubus or succubus, and that's a whole nother ball game. So that's a pretty rare bird though. So does it exist? Yes, but that's still a pretty rare bird, okay? So, but 9 times out of 10, it's you. And remember, just because something shows up gray, dark, and gritty does not mean that it's evil or demonic. So a lot of times you'll even start to notice when your clairvoyance pops on, you're going to start to see things off the corner of your eye. That's just usually grandma or grandpa, or it's one of your spirit guides that you're checking out. So just understand that it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't want people to get all upset over that. So okay. So sometimes, especially kids, and I want to explain kids really quick, between the ages of 2 and 5, many times they will have night terrors or night dreams, or nightmares. And I'm going to tell you that usually is because they are remembering how they died in previous lives. So what I have to tell parents is dream catchers work. I don't know how. But by God, they work. Let your kid pick out whatever dream catcher they want, and it's usually the ugliest one. So let them pick out whatever dream catcher they want, and then they will tell you, the kid will, exactly where they want it hung. Right there, you do what they say. Because kids know how energy flows in a room, and if they say to put it there, it works. Like I said, I don't know how it works, but they absolutely work. So if you are struggling with night terrors or nightmares, I'm going to tell you, get a dream catcher. They really work. So, and secondly, if you do have troubles dreaming, sleeping, things on that, I want to make sure that, this sounds so weird, but just hear me out. I don't want your head in a corner. Corners hold a lot of energy. Think about it. Corners are like mini pyramids. So when people are dying, guess where they look? In corners. The reason why they're looking in corners is because corners hold a lot of energy, but they're also, like I said, like mini pyramids. So the worst thing that you can do is sleep with your head in a corner. So it's really going to monkey with your mind here a little bit. So, and vice versa. If you dream very vividly, I would tell you, don't put your head in a corner. If you don't dream at all, maybe stick your head in a corner, see what happens. So like I said, but corners hold a lot of energy. That's why when you sage, you always want to sage every corner in every room. It gets rid of that residual energy. Okay. So no heads in corners when it comes to children. That's a no-no. You don't want to do that. So otherwise you aren't getting any sleep. So sometimes people do wake up. I know that my grandpa was a vivid dreamer too. And he would like, my grandma and grandpa had to sleep in separate beds because my grandpa was a kicker. So I know a lot of people have the tendency to be very active in dreams. I used to be, not so much anymore. But a lot of times people will hurt themselves in dreams. So it's common, so just be careful. But I know a lot of times if you're highly stressed out, you're more apt to act out in dream states like that. Yeah, some 13-year-old still has night terrors. Yep, just make sure the bed is not in a corner, and I would tell you sage pretty often on that one. Let's see, grandpa on mother's side did the same thing. Yeah. When I space out, see movies in my head, Johnny, that is because you're clairvoyant. That's what that is. And I did, by the way, reschedule the Psychic Abilities 101 class for next Tuesday. So pay attention, like I said, next Tuesday. People yell out a lot of times. Again, that's a stress response. And a lot of times I'll notice that people that yell in their dreams are the ones to bite their tongue during the day. So they got to get that venom out somehow. So a lot of times I'll do it through the dream states, and they yell in their dreams. So, but almost always those are the ones that bite their tongue. So visitation dreams, can the person you see younger when they pass? Yes. Yes, almost always, oddly enough, when you see somebody through that visitation dream, they're almost always the mid-30s. So they all look the same. They all look healthy and happy. And they're like, hey, how have you been? You're like, is this real? But I've been good. How about you? But I'm fine. And usually they're doing mundane stuff like dishes and laundry. And you're like, you still do that here? Or also in a dream, if it comes to a visitation dream, you're going to go back to a place that you know. So you're going to go back. You won't visit your grandma. In your mind, you're going to go back to grandma's house. So a lot of times you'll also, if it's precognitive, you'll go to a room where it's dark. And then a lot of times you'll see stairs with a light. That's usually a precognitive dream. So when I'm in that room, I know somebody's coming down those stairs to relay a message. So the last time that happened to me, my grandma came down the stairs and she looked good. I was like, damn, grandma, you look good. She goes, don't I? Do you know why I'm here? I'm like, no, ma'am. She goes, I'm here because I'm going to be taking grandpa home in about a week. I'm like, oh, got it. She goes, you have a week. I'm like, cool. So like I said, that was precognitive for her to tell me that grandpa's going to be crossing over in a week. And he did. So, but I was very grateful to be able to have that dream to get that fair warning. So that was awesome. So like I said, a lot of times you'll wake up that way. If you wake up with bruises and scratches, Kendra, that means to tell me that, like I said, in your daily life, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of chaos. Got to get that out of your real life. So that's what that one is. Yep, precog. Somebody's talking about precog dreams, about the Grim Reaper or Shalmead. Okay, that's a good one, Tiffany, because I was going to talk about death. So if you have a dream that somebody is dying in your dream, or if you have a dream that you yourself is dying, I'm going to tell you birth and death in my world is the same thing. Big change, big transition. That's what it means. So when I was moving from Blair to Elkhorn, I was dying every single night. So if you die in your dream, it does not relate to your reality. It just simply means a big change. So if you're dreaming about somebody dying and you're not normally a precognitive person, because it can happen in precognition, if you're not normally a precognitive dreamer, then that just means to tell me that person's going through a lot of changes. Or if somebody's on your brain a lot, you're like, why am I keep dreaming about this person? I'm like, reach out to that person. Reach out to that person. That's spirit's way of saying, have to check in with this one because they might need a little bit of guidance from you. So Shay is saying, what about dreams fighting for your life? That means that literally in your waking life, you're having issues with dominance and you're having issues most unlikely with your career. So grinding your teeth, that's all about stress. Teeth are all about stress and anxiety. Bar none. It's all about stress. And that means to tell me that you are overly stressed in your waking state and you're actually bringing it to your sleeping state. So you're stressing even in your dream state. So you're constantly stressing and not getting out of that stress. So that's a big problem. That's a big problem. So like I said, your job is to de-stress the best that you can. So a lot of people always think that they have to put the burden on their shoulders with everybody else's crap. I'm like, why? I'm like, just because your kid's struggling doesn't mean you should be, especially if they're out of the house. Let them struggle. It's life. So flying in your dreams, Tori, good one. Flying in your dreams means that you want to escape reality. It means that reality is really tough and you just want a little bit of a break. It also means that you're probably overdue for a vacation. So usually that one's a pretty normal one too. Another really common one is water. So water dreams have everything to do with emotion. So if you are on a kayak and the lake is smooth and clear, then that means to tell me that in your waking life, your emotions are smooth and clear. If you are having a dream where there's a tsunami coming, then that means to tell me that something in your life, and that is partially precognitive. So if you have a dream of tsunami coming, that means to tell me that there might be some drama coming down the chute in your real life. Breathing underwater, Emily, that means to tell me that you're relaxed and in control of your emotions. That just means you're relaxed and in control. So Marissa, if grandkids grind their teeth, kids are different because when their molars are coming in, a lot of times they'll grind their teeth. And actually that's really good for teeth because you want to grind your baby teeth. So that way it takes the roots off your baby teeth so your permanent teeth can come in better, normal. What about dreams of abuse and ex? I will tell you, that means to tell me that you haven't resolved the trauma that you received within that relationship. And that means to tell me ultimately you haven't forgiven him and you haven't forgiven yourself for putting yourself in harm's way. So that's what that one's going to mean. If you're constantly dreaming about somebody or something like that, that means to tell me that issue is not resolved. It may be out of your waking life, but the issue, the core issue or the trauma has not been resolved. And so resolve it. And then you'll notice in your waking life how different your relationship will then be. Okay, let's see here. Bobby, I just talked about sleep paralysis. Meteor shower. That's actually really good, Emily. That means to tell me that intuitively you're really tapping in or popping on. So that's good. Oh, these are hard. What about dreams about being cheated on? So that means to tell me that you are really insecure in your relationship. It has nothing to do with the other person. Remember, these dreams always have to do about yourself. So that means to tell me that you are not self-assured enough to trust your partner to go out and do whatever they want to do. That means to tell me that your biggest fear is to be alone, because that's what cheating is betrayal and then being alone. So that's what I'm like going. Shelly, being chased. I think is it's an escapism, if I remember right. Being chased is usually it's stress related, but I think it's, oh, that's what it is. It's being not able to face what you really need to in your waking life. You're too scared to face it for whatever reason. You're too afraid of it. So a lot of times though, that what you can do in those dreams is turn around and go, enough. And when you do that, then you have enough power then in your waking life to then fix what you've been running from. Usually it's an emotional issue. So that one I'm going to tell you boils back to how you were raised with dad or without dad. So, so let's see here. Dreams have been setting there. Lots of people. Family settings. A lot of people are getting family settings right now. And the reason why is I think we are all coming together consciously or unconsciously coming together as a family unit. We're all getting more family oriented. So yes, we're still putting up boundaries with negative family members, sure, but we're coming together even as a community, more like as a family. And I think you're going to notice a lot of family dreams, I think. Debbie, in a maze, that means to tell me that you're self-sacrificing your life way too much for other people. And that means to tell me that you also lack direction in your waking life. Time to get some goals. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some other ones here. Let me look right here. Oh, nudity. Walking around naked. So that just means to tell me that you have it symbolizes vulnerability or your feeling of being exposed to others. So a lot of that feeling vulnerable is natural human emotion. But work on, when I see nudity, almost always somebody needs to work on their self-confidence. That almost always boils down to a self-confidence issue. And then the other one is a lot of people have sex dreams. So, and 9 times out of 10, that usually is because you're not telling your partner what you need in your waking life. And I know us women especially don't like to speak truth about what we want in the bedroom. So I always tell my ladies, be real with your husband, be real with your man. If you like to get your hair pulled, then freaking say it. So if you don't, then say it. If you don't like, the way that you're getting kissed, say something. Don't just assume that he's gonna change or that, because you gotta let them know. So let them know. And a lot of times those sex dreams or those nudity dreams kind of go in together of feeling vulnerable in the bedroom. And maybe it's because somebody told you it was bad, or maybe because there's a lot of reasons why people think that. But what I always tell people is just be real with your partner, especially when it comes to intimacy things. Because intimacy, like I said, that's the one thing that you get to share with your partner that nobody else really gets to do with you. And that's why intimacy, a lot of times in America, people don't want to talk about it. They're like, oh no, we don't want to talk about it. I'm like, no, you should be able to tell your partner everything that you want and everything that you need. Because if you can't tell your partner that, who you share your intimacy with, who are you going to tell? I mean, really. So, okay. Next one. Can't sleep without sleep aids. Heather, yeah, it does affect dreaming. Absolutely it will. A lot of medicines will make you trippy dreaming wise. So snakes almost always relate back to the sex part of things. Either you're not getting enough or you're not vocal about what you want, but almost always snakes really do have to do with usually male anatomy, or it also means that you're not supposed to trust somebody. So one of the two. So let's see here. Running but not moving, that relates to your waking life. That means to tell me that you're doing a lot of things day in and day out, but you're not really progressing towards goals, ambitions, and dreams. You're having the Groundhog Day effect. So moving slow motion, same thing. Yep, same thing. Tornado dreams, drama. It's all about drama. Now, if the tornado sucks you in, that means that you're in a bunch of drama. If you see tornadoes coming, that means that drama's around you, and do not participate. So I always tell people, don't participate in other people's drama unless you're invited to. Otherwise, you go in with the best intent and you're going to get chewed up and spit out in that tornado all the way over here, only to find out that they're blaming you for it. So no, tornadoes are all about drama. Same with hurricanes. So always about drama. So yes, Mary, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So Mary was saying sometimes when she's getting ready to fall asleep, she'll hear her name being called. So, okay, when you hear your name being called, right before you're ready to go to sleep, right before you're waking up, remember you're still in that alpha state, that alpha theta state. What's happening is that when you're entering in my world, you're entering into mediumship when you're in that world. And so when you hear your name being called, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be your spirit guide calling it, unless it's somebody like you lost your dad and you know that that's your dad. So like I said, but normally that's going to be your spirit guides, or it could be a loved one. And it always happens right before you're ready, and you hear it and your brain goes, oh my gosh, I heard my name. That your subconscious is like, oh wow, I heard my name and it feels so good. And then your logical brain pops on and goes, you idiot, somebody just said your name. And then you're like, ah, and then you freak out. So a lot of times that's that secondary response. And then we kind of wake up and we're like, what the hell was that? So, but like I said, if you hear your name being called 9 times out of 10, it is going to be a loved one. It could be a spirit guide. Now here's the weird thing, could be a ghost. Could be a ghost. So because somebody just said that, Alicia. So it could be a couple things too. So if you have a ghost in your house, you might hear a name being called, but that's more startling. You'll feel that it's not familiar to you. That's way more startling. The other avenue with this one is that it could be a family member. So let me explain. When Paige was living with her dad, my 16-year-old, she would astral travel to me a lot. Now, I knew what was going on, but the average Joe would have freaked out. So I would wake up at 3, I would open up my eyes, and I would see a figure of her. And I knew what she was doing is that she couldn't give her mom a hug, so she was astral traveling to give her mother a hug. So I would literally go, come here, and I would give her a hug, and I could feel it. And then I'm like, go home, go back. And she's like, okay. And then she'd go back real fast. So, but she woke me up a lot of times by saying, Mom. And the way she does it is that she goes, Ma. And so when I hear Ma, I was instantly like, whoa, that's my kid. So that is possible. Paige has the tendency to kind of piggyback with me a lot. She's highly intuitive, but right now I'm keeping her logical. I'm not having her tap in because I need her to do good at school. So that's something that she's able to do fairly easily. I am able to do that as well. So, but sometimes our kids can join us in dream states, especially in that theta state, right when we're ready to fall asleep or wake up. So if you hear your name being called and you do have kids, it could be them. So kind of weird, but it could be also, like I said, could be a ghost. So if you know, or I don't know, in Gettysburg and you're hearing that, most likely that's going to be a ghost. So, okay. How do you be more open to friends and family of the past to visit during dreams? Like I said, you have to be able to get into REM sleep. You've got to be able to get a good 6 to 8 hours of sleep before you qualify for REM sleep. So, and that's why I always tell people, I'm like, get good sleep. Get your rest. A lot of times, the more enlightened you are, you need to be physically tired and mentally tired in order for you to go to sleep. So, Tammy chewing sunflower seeds completely dissolves in my mouth. So you probably were outside a lot when you had that dream. So, because that really relates to outside and grounding outside and being balanced with work, life, home, but also outside. Reoccurring dreams of past loved ones or angels trying to give me a gift or reminding me of a gift. Yep. So absolutely, Denise. And that, like I said, the biggest one is being having a gift of just being here on earth, but also being fairly intuitive too. And that's a lot of people are beginning to become more intuitive. Pregnancy dreams, change. Like I said, birth and death. Pregnancy is all about change. Actually, birth is change. Pregnancy is working on something that you are going to birth. So when I was writing my book, and I'm actually writing my book, another book, I will have I literally wake up and I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm not. So, but you're literally birthing something that's creatively yours. So that's usually what pregnancy or pregnant dreams. Sleeping with the radio can absolutely interfere your ability to dream because sometimes it's subliminal and then you'll get interference in the dream. So, but yeah, pets can partake in visitation dreams. Absolutely, yes. So absolutely, yes. Dream that you're traveling to places by water all the time. Yep, Sarah, because water for you is probably very calming and emotionally you need calm. So, let's see here. Candles and stones yes, crystals and stones that will help with dreaming. Yes. Rainbow moonstone, selenite, trying to think of what else. Amethyst, rutilated quartz, and then think of what other ones would be good. I want to say bloodstone, but I don't think that's right. That's dream recall. So bloodstone, green avertine, something like that. That's pretty good. Having dreams about being on an elevator and get stuck. That's literally in reflection to you feeling stuck in life. So what I would tell you is time to come up with some goals. Like I said, let's get some short-term goals, and that's really going to make you feel better. Dreams that somebody's breaking into the house, you literally feel vulnerable. So, and that's why I'm like going, I don't like to feel that way. So, I mean, I have a gun and I have like a door system. I have Vivint for security system. So, but before I had that, I would have those dreams too, because I always feel like, I'm a single girl here before Eric got here. I was always single and I wanted to make sure that I was safe. So a lot of times that's part of you being single too. Yeah, these are going so fast. Recurring dream, in a meeting a man, familiar dream, wake. Okay, so Sue, that could be a spirit guide. So if you dream about somebody in your dream and you're like, oh my God, I love you, and I don't even know you, but you are my soulmate. 9 times out of 10, that's not your soulmate. If you're not a precognitive dreamer, usually that's going to be a soulmate because usually it's going to be a spirit guide because your spirit guide is going to show up the best that they can to relate to you, love. So, because they're pure love. Dreaming about a brother who's alive, then that's one of those things that I'll tell you, reach out to your brother. because he might need you for something. So if you're dreaming about somebody that's alive over and over, usually that's a sign that you need to come in contact with that person and just kind of check in and see if they're doing A-okay. Doorbell woke me up today, realized it was a dream when I got to the door. Yep. So a lot of times, especially when you're clairaudient or your ability to hear spirit pops on, you're going to hear that doorbell ring, chimes, whistles, and then you're going to hear your name being called. So that's really common when you're clairaudient or your ability to hear spirit starts to tap in. So I used to hear church bells all the time, and I'm like, there is no church on a Tuesday night. Why am I hearing this? So I realized it was my clairaudient popping in. So I show up, you know, Shelly, here's a funny one. I show up in people's dreams a lot. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm considered maybe you see me as a spiritual guru or a leader, or a teacher. And so a lot of times I show up in people's dreams with a message, and they're just using me as an image or an avatar to be able to relay that message. I'm cool with that. So, but I show up, I probably get, I get 25 Facebook messages a day, but almost always one or two out of those, somebody will say, hey, I had a dream about you. Do you have anything to say to me? And I'm like, no, it's because you dreamt about me, and I'm like that avatar. So dreams about going to a psychic medium, probably because you need to go to one. Like I said, that's pretty normal. So, okay. Physical fighting dreams, Brianna, that means to tell me that you are probably either fighting with yourself or fighting with someone within the family, and that you need to find a solution to that. So usually that's the case. Had a dream that my mom had cancer, went to go look for it and found it. Yep. Saved her life. Yep. That's a precognitive dream. So a lot of times, like I said, those ones that come in there that you're like, that's really odd. I've never had a dream like that before. A lot of times that's where that's gonna lie. So, seeing family members, funeral service. Yeah, that's probably in relation to you dealing with somebody's death or somebody crossing over. Yeah, Robin, we talked about tsunamis earlier. That's usually because if you're trying to rescue somebody from a tsunami, then you know damn well you can see the train coming down the track and it's going to hit them. So when you see that in a dream, almost always that's what that means. Being shot or wounded in a dream. I think that's usually related to physical pain. So it depends on who shot you, but almost always that is in relation to physical pain, but also issues within relationships. Depends on who shot you. So, and usually the person who shot you has a very sharp tongue, and they don't mince their words. They're very crass. Yeah, the biggest thing we're talking about retaining that information. Like I said, right when you wake up, make sure that you're verbally saying it out loud. So ladder, water, spiders, like I said, say it out loud as quickly as you can. Remember, we want to get it out of the subconscious and get it into that conscious brain. And that's the easiest way to do it, or writing it down. So, but you'll notice that if you keep a dream journal, you'll notice a pattern. You will, because you'll go back at the end of the day and look at that dream that you had the night before and go, oh my God, makes total sense. So you will start to see a pattern. And the more you recognize that pattern, the more you can break the habit, because that means to tell me that you're looped in a habit that you don't even know it's a habit. So dreaming of spirits in the room, is that real? Yes and no. So if you get into REM sleep, your soul can leave the body. If you choose not to go anywhere and you're hanging around your room and you're seeing little people, aliens, loved ones, you're seeing yourself sleep, that's part of astral traveling. That's normal. Now you can also learn how to astral travel if you get into a deep meditative state. So if you meditate for a good 45 minutes to an hour, you have that opportunity to astral travel. So you can do that in a waking state too. A lot of people don't. So fighting dragons. Yeah, that means to tell me, Janet, that you're doing a damn good job working on some serious trauma that happened in your childhood. So that's good stuff. That's good stuff. That means to tell me that you're doing the dark night of your soul work. So that's good stuff. I like to see that, believe it or not, weird as that might sound. So keep waking up out of my sleep every hour. That's pretty common, Evan, right now with nobody sleeping very well. I think hopefully tonight we'll sleep a little bit better. Solar flares are kind of calmed down. Schumann resonance is down pretty quiet. So hopefully we'll get some pretty good sleep here. Yeah, dreams of getting lost, Denise, is because you don't have any waking goals in your real life. Groundhog Day. So when my store open? So we don't know when Awakenings is going to open. We're still online. We're still doing curbside pickup, but we don't know. It's kind of whenever the governor says we can. So we're hoping maybe May 15th, but realistically, it's looking more like June 1st. So, but as soon as I know, trust me, I'm gonna let everybody know that we're open again. Let's see here. Dream about being in water with sharks, turtles, and other sea creatures. Yep. So that almost always, I would tell you, when it comes to certain animals in your dream, remember, look it up, dreammoods.com, because it really is going to be a direct link to maybe that's your spirit animal, or maybe there's a message within the animal that you see. So, and there's so many animals. I'm like, I always have to look them up. So, claustrophobic dreams, Roberta, that might be, maybe it very well could be, honestly, how you died in a previous life. So if we have fears in this life that are unfound, like fear of deep water, fear of fire, fear of just weird things, many times that could be because that's what happened in a previous life. So that usually can happen. Dark figures, sometimes they're spirit guides. Like I said, I always tell people, don't go by what your eyes show you, go by how it feels. If it feels familiar and feels startling, then usually that's your spirit guide. There's a difference between being startled and being scared. There's a difference. Being startled is usually your spirit guides or loved ones. Being scared and having that you're like, okay, I'm creepy because something is looking at me, creepy. Okay, that's different. That's more likely a ghost or something worse. So like I said, differentiate. Is that really you? Are you just startled, or is that something different? So Jennifer, job change, feeling like you're getting fired, then that means to tell me that it might be time to start looking for another job. Because I always tell people, when it comes to your job, don't be loyal to a job. Don't. You be loyal to people. Be loyal to yourself, never to a job. Because I'm telling you what, any more corporations, they're not loyal to you. You're replaceable the next day. So don't ever be loyal to a job. If you don't like it, change it. So fully aware of how difficult that is right now. Maybe now isn't the best time. So dreamt that you can't find your loved ones, kids and husband. What does that mean, Sasha? That means that you might feel a bit disconnected to your family right now, or that they're like totally fine without you. So time to get reconnected with the family. Floating, Laura, like I said, that floating is just escape from reality. That means usually to tell me that most people need a vacation at that point. Yeah, a lot of times, Tracy, some people can just remember dreams from long ago in more detail than you can more recent dreams. And it really depends on where you were at in that life. Like I said, a lot of times I know a lot of people have crazy dreams when they're getting married, getting ready to have a baby, getting divorced, things like that. So that's usually really, really common. So dreaming that you're caring for somebody or doing Reiki, that's your job. So Shelly, that just means to tell me that you're the caregiver. That's your job. Let's see here. So Steph was saying something about somebody grabs you. I can't find it. I pushed the wrong button. I can put somebody in timeout. I didn't know that. Okay. So no, Steph, I didn't get you'll have to do that one again. I'm sorry. I didn't catch it. Visits from people passing that same night they visit me. Why is that? Vanel, I'll tell you what, that happens to me a lot. Because you have to remember, spirit your loved ones, family members, they're going to go to the most open person right away. They're going to go the easiest route that they can go to deliver a message. That's just what happens. So just understand you're the easy route for A, remembering your dreams, B, figuring out who you talk to, and C, relaying the message. So usually that's one. Pets do dream. I would love to know what they dream about though, especially when they're like, meow, meow, meow. You know, they're doing all weird things. Like, what are you dreaming about? Are you chasing bunnies? What are you doing? So being hit by a car and waking up on impact. Stacy, that means that you got to slow down, girl. That means that you're going too fast. So you're wanting everything to happen all at once, and it's not going to work that way. It's going to happen over time. So dream about dying of heat stroke or hypothermia. Emily, that might be a past life. That might be a past life impression from a previous life. When a loved one visits you, but they run from you. You know, I've heard this a lot. A lot of times, like I said, I think you're going to their level and they're not coming down to yours, and they're like, woohoo, they just walk away. And I don't think they really know that you were there. So, and a lot of times, if you're not necessarily clairaudient, you can't hear them talk. They're just like looking at you and you're like, but they didn't say anything. I'm like, well, you weren't able to hear them. So because they don't talk with their mouth, they talk telepathically. So if a black figure above, wow, bed grabbing my shoulders, scaring the shit out of me, I can't scream or move. I'm awake, but I'm froze. Yep, that's that paralyzing dream. We talked about that earlier. So absolutely. Fear of birds, Marissa, that's a legit deal. So that might be, that might be something how you died within a previous life. Can you touch your loved ones in a dream? Absolutely. I've gotten hugs from my dad. You bet. So happens a lot. So, although it's kind of strange, I don't dream about my dad that often because I know that he's good and I'm good. So I really don't dream about him that often. The only time I ask him to come through is when I need a little bit of reassurance with making a big, bold move. But yeah, he gives me a hug, just like me to you. He's looking like he's 35 years old. My dad was deaf, so he always had hearing aids. So talking to him, he doesn't have that lisp that he used to have. So that's different. But he's still my dad, if that makes any weird sense at all. So irrational fear, nightmare of wolves. So I'm going to tell you what, look that one up. Like I said, look up the spiritual meaning behind wolves and see if that doesn't resonate with you. So same with that, Robin. Look up the animals that are trying to fight or harm you, because most likely that's something that's representative, emotional, that you're missing in your real life. So like I said, whenever you have an animal show up in a dream, always look it up. Like I said, dreammoods.com. Love that website. So Kathy, dad lost her friend. I can dream about it, but she can't. You really can't encourage somebody to get into REM sleep. A lot of times after somebody dies, somebody is going to start to go through a spiritual awakening. And if you start to go through that awakening, it's almost like a year and a half of you being able to meet that person then in that visitation dream. So the biggest thing I could tell you, Kathy, is be a really cool friend and just simply put, relay the messages for her. Just relay the messages for her. Public restrooms, stalls but no doors. That's really feeling like you're exposed, or that somebody's going to expose something about you. And almost always when I have those dreams, it's because somebody gave me a negative review. And I'm like, but that's not true. So it's like, I want to rebuttal, but there's no rebuttal to be made. So a lot of times it's because you're not feeling secure about yourself. Things like that. Okay. Sometimes I feel a touch in a dream. Spirit guide. Spirit guide could be loved one too. Can't say no to that. I'll post that one right here. Actually, that's a really good one, Julia. She's like, what is it again? It's dreammoods.com. So like I said, they have an app for that. MOODS. That fingered it. So, but that's, like I said, that's my favorite one. And they got an app, and it looks like a little dude with a little, I don't know if you can see that one. It's like a little cloud. He's got a cloud in his head. So that's the one you want to get. Like I said, free. I like it. After learning about astral projection, meditating, feel like I fall asleep suddenly, above, panic, fell down. What was that? Yep, Taylor, that's you leaving your body too fast. So your soul was leaving the body too fast, and your body's like, hey, I'm not asleep. Your soul's like, I don't care. So, and your body's like, So it comes back into the body, and then your brain imagines you slipping, tripping, falling, something like that. Can you manifest things through certain sleep states? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I will tell you, 3 a.m. is very magical. So if you're waking up between 2 and 4, that really is the best time to talk to spirit. That really is the best time to ask for what it is that you want, because you're not thinking of anything. You're in theta. So you're not really thinking logically about anything. You're just like, you know what? It'd be really nice to have this. And then just daydream about it and go back to bed. That's manifesting. That's manifesting. So I'll tell you, the last 5 minutes of your day and the first 5 minutes of your day will absolutely determine the next 24 hours of your life. So I always tell people, really pay attention to what you're thinking about when you go to bed, and make sure that you start the day off on the right note. Don't sit there and be like, oh my God, I got to. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just sit and be like, you know what? Today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be a great day. And just get up and try to get your brain to chill a little bit. So when you start the day that way, you're going to have a good day. But if you hurry up and get out of bed and step in dog poop, your whole day is shot to shit. Absolutely shot. So and you'll know, because it's going to put you in a bad mood. That bad mood's going to extend the next 24 hours. So like I said, the last 5 minutes of the day and the first 5 minutes of your day matter quite significant. So when they say don't ever go to bed angry, don't. Because really, think about it. You're marinating in that for 6 to 8 hours in that anger. And then you're going to wake up still pissed off. You don't wake up happy. It doesn't work that way. So like I said, biggest thing is try to make sure that you're going to bed happy, wake up happy. Amy, a lot of times, I will explain that one too. Amy, a lot of times people that are depressed, people that struggle with depression, or that are just generally bummed out, they usually don't sleep very well. And if they do sleep, they sleep for a long extended amount of time, and they don't dream. So like I said, and that's because your body is in such a low vibrational state that it's hard to be able to get in that higher vibrational state to be able to dream. So that's what I'm going. So again, fix your reality, fix the reason why you're depressed. And I'll tell you, the reason why you're depressed is usually the way that you were raised by a parent, or lack thereof. A parent wasn't around to help raise you. That's trauma. Work on the trauma. And that requires therapy. That requires somebody outside of me. I'm a life coach. I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor, but I encourage people that have depressive issues, go to a counselor, work on the core issue, work on it. Because usually it's abandonment. Usually it's abandonment of some sort. So, all righty. Carrie, if you're dreaming about 8s in the infinity symbol, that means to tell me money is coming. Money's good. So, or that you've figured out a way to make more money. So that's a positive thing for me. So, okay, I think I'm going to end it there. I think I answered most everybody's questions. At least I'm hoping so. But yeah, the biggest thing is, like I said, there's 3 different types of dreams. If you want to dream more, I'm going to tell you meditate more, because that will help to open it up. But again, don't forget to ask. Ask for remembering your dreams before you go to bed. You will just ask, but don't expect things to happen just overnight. Don't expect it to happen that night. It very well could happen maybe 3-4 nights down the road. So, but always, like I said, ask for yourself to remember your dreams upon a waking state. You will. And if you have a problem, be like, okay, God, got a problem. Here's my problem. Help me to find a solution. You're probably going to find one either in a dream state or when you're waking up. So, all right, guys, thank you guys so much again. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be doing a lot more free videos here. I think forgot the next one. I know, but like I said, Psychic Abilities is on Tuesday. On Sunday, I'm having a crystal gem show. So Eric and I will be doing on YouTube, selling crystals. And these are kind of more different kind of crystals that you're not used to. Not like the rose quartz and amethyst. And they're all under $20. So we're talking cheap because like I said, we're all it's kind of a tighter budget right now. So like I said, all these crystals on Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Like I said, different kind of unique crystals, all under $20. So like I said, oh yeah, Real Talk. That's it. Real Talk's Thursday. So Real Talk on Thursday, that is when I do readings. So I will read you on those. Now the Q&As, I answer questions. Real Talk, I like to do the Real Talks because it really helps people to understand trauma and problems and issues and how to find solutions. So I love doing those. So, but like I said, Real Talk is Thursday at 7 o'clock. So I will see you guys then. Thanks again for watching. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful week. All righty.